morning, students. I welcome you to your English language lesson. In today's lesson, we are going to review all the grammar topics that you have covered in Unit 2. The objective of today's lesson is to understand the use of phrasal verbs. Then we're going to move over to the 5 different forms of verbs. We're going to later look at the past and the present participle. We're going to look at the use of participles as adjectives. Later on, we will view how modifiers are used. Finally, we're going to look at participles in adjectival phrases. So here we go. Phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are very common in English, especially in more informal contexts, that is, in our everyday lives. They're made up of a verb and a particle, usually a preposition: in, on, off, up, down, around, across, etc. Sometimes two particles. The particle often changes the meaning of the verb. I called Jen to see how she was. In this example, called is being used as a verb. That is, to ring someone up using your telephone or your cell phone. They've called off the meeting. Call off means to cancel. They called in to their neighbors. Call in means to go and meet someone. So you see how the use of the preposition changes the meaning of the phrasal verb. Now, in terms of word order, there are two main types of phrasal verbs: the separable and inseparable. With separable phrasal verbs, the verb and particle can be apart or together, with the noun or the pronoun in between them. Look at the same example that we have used earlier. They've called off the meeting and they've called the meeting off. In both of these examples, the meaning of the phrasal verb remains the same. Here are some common separable phrasal verbs. I didn't want to bring the situation up at the meeting. Bring up means to start talking about a particular subject. Please, can you fill this form in? Fill in means write information in a form or document. I'll pick you up from the station at 8 p.m. Pick up means collect someone in a car or other vehicle to take them somewhere. She turned the job down because she didn't want to move to Glasgow. Turn down means to not accept an offer. The non-separable phrasal verbs. Now, some phrasal verbs cannot be separated. Who looks after the baby when you're not at work? Even when there's a pronoun, the verb and the particle remain together. Who looks after her when you're at work? The baby, in this example, has been replaced by the pronoun her. If you notice, looks after cannot be separated from each other. That is, we can't say who looks the baby after. That will be considered wrong. That's grammatically wrong. Here are some common non-separable phrasal verbs. I came across your email when I was clearing my inbox. To come across means to find something by chance. The caterpillar turned into a beautiful butterfly. Turn into means become. It was quite a major operation. It took months to get over it and feel normal again. Get over means recover from something. We are aware of the problem and we are looking into it. Look into means to investigate. Now, in your Unit 2, page number 41, you have done 6 different phrasal verbs using the verb stand. Your words are stand to, stand back, stand by, stand up, stand in for, and stand down. I'm sure you have done them with your teacher thoroughly. Participles in verb tenses. Before we come to the participles, I'd like to clarify that verb can change into 5 different forms. The first form is also called imperative. By the word imperative, we mean a command. For example, you must have heard people command others by simply using the verb come, go, sit, stand. Okay, these are certain verbs that we normally use when we want to give a command. Listen, stop, quiet. Okay, these are things that you are very familiar with in your class as well. All right, now in the imperative form, it means that the verb is in its base form, in its original form. If you want to convert it into infinitive, all you have to do is add to before the base form or the imperative form of the verb. Okay, now another thing of this slide is I have used a regular verb for my first example, an irregular verb for my second example, and on purpose I have chosen be, and then again another irregular verb, read. Okay, now let's study each of these in their 5 different forms. Now, to cook changes into its present form as cook or cooks. You can add either s or es to change the verb from its base to the present form by adding s or es to it. In the past form, all you have to do is to add ed. So cook changes into cooked. On the other hand, irregular verbs change from go to went. Looking at the regular verb, the third form is the past participle. Again, past participle takes ed to convert in the regular form. So cook changes into cooked. The difference between the regular and the irregular verbs is that regular verbs simply require the addition of the ed suffix to change into the past and past participle form. Whereas the irregular verbs change their spelling or their shape when they convert into past and the past participle form. That is why they are considered irregular, because they do not take ed. Hence, go changes into went in its past form and gone in its past participle form. Now, I have chosen be over here because when I was a young student, I had trouble with be myself. The teacher would often use be in the worksheets and ask us to change the form of the verb, which I was always perplexed with. So, to avoid the same situation for you, I have added be over here to show you how be changes its form. Now, be can change in its present form into am, is, are. In the past form, it changes into was and were. And in the past participle form, it changes into been. And as the ing form, which is also called the present participle form, as being. So the five forms of verb are: number one, the base form, which is also the imperative or the infinitive form. Then you have the present form, the past form, the past participle, which takes ed to change from present to past, and the verb in its ing form, which is called the present participle. So for today's lesson, for the rest of the lesson, you have to focus on this and this form of the verb. I hope that the lesson till here is absolutely clear. If you understand these five forms of verbs, moving over is quite easy. Now, what is a participle? Now, a participle is a verbal, that is, a verb formed from a verb. Now, there are two forms of participle that indicate present and past actions or states. Present participle and past participle, as you saw in the previous slide. Now, the present participles are formed by simply adding the suffix ing to the base form of the verb. Be changes into being, love changes into laughing, and hope changes into hoping. On the other hand, past participles are formed by adding the suffix ed to the regular verbs or by changing the form of the verb, typically the ending for irregular verbs. Now, the same concept of changing the irregular verbs in 7 different ways has already been mentioned on page number 34 of your Oxford Progressive English Book 7. You can consult these pages for further understanding. Now, let's have a look at how present and past participle are used as verbs. Now, present participle is used in continuous tenses in both the present and the past and the future form tense of the verb. In its present form, is, am, are added before the verb. Am, is, are is added before the verb in its ing form to make the present. On the other hand, was and were are added before the ing to make it into the past form. Okay. Now, if you notice in these examples, the whole family is watching. Is the helping verb and watching is the main verb. She was baking potatoes. Was tells us that the action occurred in the past, and was baking tells us that the action was happening in the past. Was is the helping verb, baking is the main verb. Together, is watching and was baking, they are considered compound verbs, just like we have the compound nouns, frying pan, okay, swimming pool, washing machine. These are all compound nouns. Clear? Similarly, we have compound verbs. 2 or more than 2 verbs are considered compound verbs. Moving over to the present participle. Oh, sorry, past participle. Past participle is used in the perfect tense. While present participle is used in the continuous tense, past participle is used in the perfect tense. The past participles are formed by adding ed to the base form of regular verbs. fire, fired, jump, jumped, move, moved, or by adding other endings to the base form of irregular verbs. Be changes into been, feel changes into felt, hide, hidden, as they do not end in ed, or by simply changing the spellings. Fight changes into fought, see into saw, and teach into taught. The past participle expresses a completed action in the past. It must come after the helping verb or auxiliary verb has, have, and had to form the perfect tenses in the active voice. Or be, which is, are, was, were in the passive voice. The past participle may also be used as adjective to modify noun or pronoun. When it modifies a noun, it functions as an adjective and is known as a participle adjective. Now, past participle used in the present perfect, in the perfect tense in the active voice takes has, have, and had. Let's look at some examples. She has broken another of my glasses. Has broken is present perfect. Many passerbys have accepted the leaflets that we are handing out. Again, present perfect. Notice that has is used for singular, she, whereas many passerby means plural, so plurals take have. The hospital had already discharged her when we arrived to visit her. Had discharged is past perfect. By the end of this month, her sister will have given birth to her 7th child. Will have given is the future perfect form. Let's look at participles as adjectives. Now, sometimes a present participle, which is usually a verb ending in ing, can be used to modify nouns. Now, modify means to describe the quality or to simply help out the noun. It usually comes before the noun that it modifies. If the present participle is part of a modifying phrase, it comes after the noun it modifies. Let's look at some examples to clarify our concept. I was frying some fish for dinner. Was frying. Over here, was is the helping verb. Frying is the main verb. What action was I doing? I was frying. On the other hand, look at the second example. I cooked some fish in a frying pan. In this example, the main action I did was cooking. Whereas, what did I use to do this action? A frying pan. What kind of a pan? The one which is used for frying. Not a saucepan, not a non-stick pan, but a frying pan, the kind that you use for frying. Okay, so frying over here is describing the quality of the noun pan. That is, it's coming before the noun and it is modifying the noun. Look at the second example. That was her daughter dancing in her room. What was her daughter doing? She was dancing. Was dancing is again a verb. On the other hand, she got a dancing doll for her birthday. What did she get? She got a doll for her birthday. Now, what kind of a doll was it? It was not the one that was mute. It was not the one that could sing. It was the doll. It was the dancing doll. Dancing, although is a verb, but here, since it is describing the quality of the noun doll, hence it is being used as an adjective. Is the idea clear? Moving over to past participles used as adjectives. Again, past participles can also function as an adjective to modify a noun and is known as the participle adjective as well. Again, past participle adjectives also come before the noun that they modify. Let's look at the examples. James colored a boat he drew. What did James do? He colored. On the other hand, I have a colored calendar on my desk. What kind of a calendar do I have? The one which is colored, not the one which is monotone, not the one which is black and white. I have the one which is colored. Calendar is a noun, and colored, although a verb, it is describing the quality of the noun. Hence, it is being used as an adjective here. You can see that it is coming before the noun calendar. Let's look at the other examples. The farmer was found guilty of receiving a stolen cow. What kind of a cow? The stolen cow. The polluted water stinks of rotten eggs. River and eggs are both nouns. Now, what kind of a river was it? Was it a clean river? No, it was not a clean river. Was it a fresh river? No, it wasn't. It was a polluted river. Polluted is a verb which is being used as an adjective over here. Rotten is also the past participle form of rot. Rot, 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 rotten, rotten. So, rotten eggs. What kind of eggs? Not the fresh ones, but the rotten eggs. The wounded victim died in the ambulance. What kind of a victim was he? He was wounded. Wounded is again past participle. Soldiers were shot for straying into the disputed territory. What kind of a territory was it? It was disputed. Again, stolen, polluted, rotten, wounded, and disputed are verbs which are being used as adjectives to describe the nouns or to modify the nouns cow, river, eggs, victim, and territory, respectively. We now move over to modifiers. A modifier is a word, phrase, or clause which modifies other words in a sentence. To be specific, a modifier is either an adjective or an adverb. The adjectives modify the nouns and the adverbs modify the verbs or the adjectives or the other adverbs. Now, the most important thing is the easier way to remember. Adverbs add to the verbs. On the other hand, adjectives add to the nouns. Okay? Is this going to be easy to remember? Let's look at an example to understand the concept of modifier. Alex bought a chocolate cake yesterday. In this example, a is an article. Do you know the other articles? There are 3 articles in English language. A, an, the. Remember that all 3 articles are also a kind of adjectives because they tell you something about the noun. So, Alex bought a chocolate cake. How many cakes did he buy? A chocolate cake. 1 chocolate cake, not 2, not 3, not 10. Now, what kind of a cake was it? It was a chocolate cake, not a vanilla cake, not a strawberry cake, not a red velvet cake, but it was a chocolate cake. So a is an article which modifies the word cake. And again, chocolate is the direct adjective of the word cake. So both the words and chocolate are adjectives which modify the noun cake. Now, generally, modifiers are of 2 types according to their position to the word they modify: pre-modifiers and post-modifiers. Pre-modifiers are the modifiers which modify the word that follow them in the sentence. That is, they come before the noun they modify. Okay. Conventionally, the adjectives are usually placed before the nouns. So most of the adjectives are pre-modifiers. Look at these examples. Generally, the brown dogs are nice. The and brown are both modifiers of the noun dogs. Apparently, that bank has a lot of security process. That modifies bank, and a lot of security modifies process. Give me that black covered shining box. In this sentence, the noun box has 4 pre-modifiers. Remember, the words in blue are nouns. The words in red are adjectives, which are being used as pre-modifiers. That is, they're coming before the noun they modify. They describe the quality of. Post modifiers. Post modifiers are the modifiers which come after the word they modify. Customarily, the adverbs come after the verbs and modify them. However, some adjectives also come after the nouns and modify them. Jason Roy, a cricketer, has been selected in the squad. In this example, Jason Roy is a noun, name of a person. Who is Jason Roy? He is a cricketer. So a cricketer is an adjective. What has he been? Okay, then Jason Roy has been selected. Selected is the verb. Where is he selected? In the squad. Now, in the squad is an adverb. So, as we have said over here, post modifier, that is, they come, post means after. They come after the noun they modify or the word they modify. Okay? Again, over here, the adverb is coming after the verb. The adjective is coming after the noun. The adjective is telling us something about the noun. The adverb in the squad is telling us something about the verb selected. Both the adjective and the adverb are coming after the noun and the verb they are modifying. Stark, our teacher, gives us tasks to do in the class. Stark is the noun. Who is Stark? He is our teacher. Our teacher is again the adjective. Stark is the noun. Tasks is noun and to do is the adjective. Ronaldo is the noun. The captain of Portugal team is the adjective. Plays is a verb and well is an adverb. Ronaldo, the captain of Portugal team, plays well. Adverb tells you the quality of the verb. The adjective tells you the quality of noun. Both are coming after. The adjective is coming after the noun. The adverb is coming after the verb. This adjective and this adverb are both post modifiers coming after the word they modify. Here are some examples of certain participles being used as pre and post modifiers. Let's quickly go through them. It is a computerized system. Computerized is a pre-modifier to the verb, to the noun system. The system is computerized. System is the noun. Computerized is the post modifier participle. She is an intelligent little girl. The little girl is intelligent. This is an exciting new magazine. Exciting New magazine. What kind of a magazine? It is new. What and exciting. Both exciting and new are adjectives to the verb, to the noun magazine. This new magazine is exciting. Here, exciting is being used as a post modifier. I could hear irritating snores coming from his bedroom. Irritating snores. Irritating is modifying snores. I could hear snores that are irritating. Again, irritating is modifying snores. Participles as adjectival phrases. We are now on the last chunk of our lesson. But a very important portion. Participles in adjectival phrases. A participle phrase is a group of words containing a participle, modifier, and pronoun or noun phrase. The pronoun or noun will act as the recipient, that is, the receiver of the action in the phrase, the object of the sentence, of the phrase. You need a comma after the participle phrase if it comes at the beginning of a sentence, and the following phrase is a complete sentence. That is, if the participle comes in the beginning of if the participle phrase comes in the beginning of the sentence, as shown here, you're going to place a comma after it. And the rest will be a complete sentence. So if we look at it this way, Jack rushed to the river. The idea is complete. This portion, removing his coat, is telling us something more about this sentence, about Jack. Okay? Removing his coat. So, removing his coat is the phrase. And what does it modify? It modifies Jack. Who is removing his coat? It is not the river that is removing its coat, is it? Obviously, it is Jack. Removing his coat, Jack rushed to the river. What did Jack do? What quality do we get of Jack? Removing his coat. From this phrase, removing his coat, removing is the participle and his coat is the direct object of action. That is, what was removed? His coat was removed. Okay, but altogether, removing his coat is telling us something about Jack. Next example. Dolores noticed her cousin walking along the shoreline. Now, in this example, the main idea is coming in the beginning. And the prepositional phrase, the participle phrase is coming later on. So we do not need to put a comma over here. Now, Dolores noticed her cousin. If you look at the sentence, till here, the sentence is complete. The idea is complete. Dolores, what did Dolores do? She noticed her cousin. Now, what was her cousin doing? Cousin is being modified with this phrase. The cousin was walking along the shoreline. Walking along the shoreline is an adjectival phrase. Walking, in this adjectival phrase, walking is the participle. Where was this action being done? Along the shoreline. Hence, along the shoreline is the adverb, prepositional phrase as adverb. Children, now this is the third kind, where the participle phrase can come in the middle of the sentence. Children, now the main sentence is children develop strong intellectual skills. Now, the adjective is what kind of children? The ones who are the ones who are interested in music at an early age. So the main sentence is children develop strong intellectual skills. Interested in music early is telling us something about children. What kind of children? The ones who are interested in music at an early age. Interested in is a participle. Music is the direct object of action, and early obviously is an adverb. I hope, okay, there's just one more example. Having been a gymnast, Lynn knew the importance of exercise. Having been is a participle. A gymnast is the subject complement for Lynn. That is, but together, that is what he used to do, what he is good at. He is a gymnast. Having been a gymnast, Lynn knew the importance of exercise. Now, altogether, this group of words is a phrase. In this phrase, having been is a participle. Gymnast is the noun. Okay? Because it is coming in the beginning of the sentence, we have placed a comma at the end of the participle phrase. Now, once more, I'm going to highlight the importance of punctuation while attempting or while writing a participle adjectival phrase. When a participle phrase begins a sentence, when a participle phrase begins a sentence, a comma should be placed after the phrase. For example, arriving at the store, comma, I found that it was closed. Arriving at the store is the adjectival phrase, which is describing I, and in this phrase, arriving is the participle. What did I do? I was arriving at the store. Excuse me. Washing and polishing the car. Who was doing this action? Frank was. Frank is the noun being modified. Washing and polishing the car, comma, Frank developed sore muscles. Now, washing and polishing are both participles. Together, this group of words is a participle phrase. This participle phrase is telling you something about Frank, the quality of Frank. Okay, do we understand the concept of adjectival phrases, participle adjectival phrases? I hope you have understood. Now, the important thing is, if the participle phrase comes in the beginning of the sentence, you're going to place a comma after the phrase. You're going to place a comma immediately after the phrase. And then you will have the rest of the complete sentence. Okay? Now, if the participle or participle phrase comes in the middle of a sentence, it should be set off with commas only if the information is not essential to the meaning of the sentence. That is, if it is some extra information. Sid, watching an old movie, drifted in and out of sleep. Now, Sid, comma, watching an old movie, comma, drifted in and out of sleep. Over here, this is extra information. Watching an old movie is the extra information that we are getting about Sid. What was Sid doing? He was watching an old movie. In this sentence, watching is the participle. Okay? Sid, watching an old movie, drifted in and out of sleep. Watching is the participle. Watching an old movie is the participle phrase. Now, what if I remove all of this? Does the sentence still make sense? Sid drifted in and out of sleep. The sentence is still complete. So remember that adjectival phrases or the participle adjectival phrases, basically they provide you with the extra information about the noun. Okay, if you remove that extra information, the sentence will still be complete. Okay, so this extra information, if you want to add it in the sentence, you are going to put a comma before and after this extra information. Okay, you're going to put a comma before this extra information and also at the end of the extra information. Let's look at the second example. The church, comma, destroyed by a fire, comma, was never rebuilt. Once again, can I say that the church was never rebuilt? Is the sentence complete? Yes, the sentence is still complete. But destroyed by the fire gives us some extra information about the church. What had happened to the church? It was destroyed by the fire. Destroyed by the fire is a participle phrase. Why? Because destroyed is a verb, it is a participle, and it is part of this phrase. Because it is a part of this phrase and it is telling us something about the noun, this is the participle adjectival phrase. Okay. Let's have a quick recap. A participle is a verbal ending in ing in the present form or ed, en, d, t, n, or ne in the past that functions as an adjective, modifying a noun or a pronoun. A participle phrase consists of a participle plus modifiers, objects, or, and complements. Participles and participle phrases must be placed as close to the nouns or pronouns they modify as possible. And those nouns or pronouns must be clearly stated. A participle phrase is set off with commas when it comes A, at the beginning of a sentence, B, it interrupts a sentence in the middle as a non-existential element, as in extra information. With that, we come to the end of our lesson. I hope that all the explanations are now clear and were helpful in understanding the concepts that you learned in your Unit 2. Thank you so very much.